Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at the Tyranids of Leviathan. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. The Tyranids of Leviathan shred the galaxy with claws, spines, and really big brains. The epic Leviathan box set has been revealed, and amongst the mountains of plastic inside, you'll find a horde of Tyranids from massive monsters to teeming minions. It's time to take a closer look at all the vicious beasties in the box. And first we have the Screamer Killer. So depending on how familiar you are with Warhammer 40,000 and the lore and everything, the Screamer Killer is essentially a type of Carnifex. So we're still going to have the existing Carnifexes in the Codex, and then we're also going to have the Screamer Killer variant. And now the Screamer Killer has its own model, and the model is absolutely beautiful. I am a huge fan of this thing. It still looks like the actual Carnifexes of old, or like the existing range. It does justice to the actual art of Screamer Killers over the ages, and honestly is just ferocious looking. I love everything about it. It still has quite a bit of armor and everything, but looks much more like fleshy and kind of beasty. I like how they went with the quad claws. They kind of took them away from just being all one like solid claw and kind of turned them into a little more like jointed claws. Very, very cool. Definitely like the pose, the dynamic of it. Really looking forward to painting up this bad boy. And not only has Games Workshop blessed us with a new model, but they have shown us off the rules as well. The Screamer Killer has a long history, starting life as the original metal Carnifex miniature in 1992. Though one of the many variants of Carnifex, it's infamous for its sheer size and power of its bioplasmic scream, which can melt straight through a Space Marine in seconds, as you may have seen in the cinematic trailer. Its 4 huge arms, ending in brutal talons, make it an absolute menace in close combat, the perfect counter to those hard-as-nails Terminators. So we have the Screamer Killer data card. Movement is 8, toughness is 9, save is 2+, wounds 10, leadership 8+, OC 3. So its range weapon is the bioplasmic scream. It is assault and blast, range 18, so it has a pretty nice range on it now. And attacks, it's a d6 plus 3, so 4 to 9 attacks. Ballistic skill 4, strength 8, -2, 1 damage. So on average, you're going to be hitting with about 3 or 4 strength 8 -2 1 damage attacks. And then for melee, where this thing really shines, we have the Screamer Killer Talons. Attacks 10, weapon skill 3+, strength 10, AP -2, damage 3. So this thing is still going to be able to dish out a ridiculous amount of damage in combat. So its core, Deadly Demise 1, so if it is killed, it can potentially do 1 mortal wound to close by units, faction synapse rules, and death scream. In your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select 1 unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. That unit must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from that result. So pretty good. Anything hit by the Screamer Killer's attacks is going to have to pass a battle shock. So very, very cool. Definitely neat. It's still hard to kind of fully grasp the new data sheets without seeing all of them and knowing the interactions with rules and everything. But we assume a 2+ save and wounds 10 with toughness 9 is very strong. We know that there's potentially toughness as high as 14. So when we see the strength of 8 and 10 on its weapons, they're both still really good. But at least in the existing rule set, if something has a higher toughness, you're going to be wounding it on 5s. So while this can do a lot of damage, I think the resiliency of vehicles is being underestimated by people, especially after having seen the new bracketing rules and seeing that they have really toned that down as well. I think 10th edition is really going to be the addition of the vehicles. So very, very cool, super awesome stats and model. Definitely looking forward to painting and putting this bad boy on the table. And next we have the Neurotyrant. So this thing is absolutely amazing. Combination between a Neurothralls and a Hive Tyrant. Obviously a massive mutated brain bug with this little mini brain bugs as well. Very, very cool model. I absolutely love this thing. Super dark and ominous. The Neurotyrant is a support focused creature. It hovers across terrain much like a zoanthrope, though unlike their smaller cousins, they sport a multitude of thrashing tendrils to whip at anything within reach. Its giant brain exists to focus the mental powers of the Tyranids, increasing the psychic pressure exerted by the shadow in the warp, while simultaneously relaying the critical synapse network to less developed creatures. So very, very cool. Sounds like he will be a important part of the Tyranid swarm, especially if Synapse and Shadow in the Warp are essential parts of the Hive Fleet. And next we have our Neurogaunts. Neurogaunts serve as crucial relays for the Synapse network and bodyguards for those that would focus it. Larger Nodebeasts can be distinguished by their bulbous growth on their backs, while their smaller gaunts chitter around with the sharp claws and teeth. Alright, so we see the Nodebeast, who's basically like the leader of the squad. And these are essentially just gaunts, but they seem to relay the Synapse between the bigger bugs and the less intelligent bugs. So these things are pretty neat. Somewhere in between a kind of like Hormigaunt and I would suppose like Tyranid warriors. They definitely have a cool look to them. I like them. They're fairly well armored as well. Looks like quite a bit of variance in their poses. These things are definitely neat. I like them. I like the overall new look to the Tyranids. Super cool. They definitely have like a little more chunky of a back end and a little more light front end. Yeah, very cool. Very neat. Definitely looking forward to the rules on these bad boys as well. And next we see the Winged Tyranid Prime. So very cool. It's been a long time since there were Shrike models or like flying warriors, which is essentially what this guy is. So he's somewhere in between a Tyranid warrior, a regular Tyranid Prime, and a Hive Tyrant. So for smaller point games, he would definitely be your general, but in larger games, probably going to want something like a Hive Tyrant leading your force. Super cool miniature. Obviously, we've seen him already. I really like it. Definitely looking forward to painting all of these models. The detail looks amazing, and they've definitely brought the Tyranids up to like a little more kind of horror and a little less cartoony. The Tyranid Prime is an evolved version of a Tyranid warrior. Bioform usually found leading their brethren on foot, but this winged variant can take to the skies to carry its razor-sharp claws and Synapse ability far and wide. This is the first time a Tyranid Prime has had a unique miniature, as previous incarnations were built from the Tyranid warrior kit. And obviously this is a substantial upgrade from the Tyranid Prime on foot, as he essentially just didn't really do anything particularly well. And I think you slap some wings on this guy and point him accordingly, and suddenly we're going to see lots of Tyranid Primes in people's lists. And next we see Von Ryan's Leapers. These have already been previewed. There's 3 of them in the box. Whoever this unfortunate Von Ryan was, he has a truly horrific creature named after him. These Leapers take genetic elements from Hormigants and Lictors, combined with their best qualities to create a deadly melee threat. Von Ryan's Leapers move exceedingly fast thanks to their balancing tails, and their smaller size makes them especially good ambush predators. So very, very cool. Definitely a huge fan of these. They are absolutely beautiful. Basically just appear to be like a sort of pack hunting version of the Lictors. I really like the dynamic poses, and obviously the fact that these are finally going to be available in plastic is a massive, massive upgrade as well. So super, super cool. Again, absolutely love the sculpts on these. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch, and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now, back to the video. And next we have the Termagants. So these are the most basic of the Gaunts. You can't beat a classic, and we've seen plenty of the Termagants already. You get a pile of them in the Leviathan box, 20 in total, and they still come with those adorable Ripper swarms we all know and love. Massive update over the existing Termagants. The amount of detail, dynamic poses, and overall just meanness of these really just steps up the Tyranid swarm a notch. Definitely a big fan. Cannot wait to get a hold of these bad boys. Looks like there's plenty of poses as well, so there's not going to be too much redundancy. So hopefully they have learned from the lessons of old with the single touch point on the base, and now there's like a solid peg instead of the tiny little bit that was kind of holding the Termagants and Hormigants to their bases before. Much more so the Hormigants. but really, really nice and super cool. Still have the rippers incorporated, and it does seem like they're just going to be a part of the unit rather than their own selection. So very, very nice, an awesome and overdue upgrade for Termagants. And next we have the Barbgaunts, a Tyranid artillery organism. Working closer to the front line than the Hive Guard and Biovores, the biocannons on their backs are actually bonded with the same parasitic organism that has enslaved the rest of the Gaunt to its will, merging body and weapon into a single lethal entity. So very, very cool. Essentially somewhere in between a Gaunt and like a Biovore or Hive Guard. So they are not the elites that you would normally see in the Hive Guard. They're not the pure backline artillery that you would see in the Biovores. They're somewhere in between. And I really like the aspect of this. Opening up the Tyranid army to have a bunch more selections is a great idea in my opinion. And honestly, a lot of the old models were just so dated that the new stuff just looks amazing. So I'm not sure if this is going to be replacing some of the older models or some of the older entries, but I do really like them. And I hope that they have like a sort of cheaper, kind of mediocre artillery slot in the Tyranid army. I absolutely love the models. They look great. I love the sort of like blend between the actual like Tyranid Gaunt creature and then also the sort of like biocannon parasite. So they still have like the regular look of Termagants, but instead they have this sort of like parasite on their backs, really upgrading their damage output. Models are absolutely amazing too. So yeah, they're awesome. I really like the overall look of them. Again, we see like poses as some of them look like they're launching, others look like they're in motion. Really, really nice looking minis right here, and really looking forward to some new units. And last but not least, we have the Psychophage. So we saw this thing in the trailer. We don't know much about it, but just based on the looks, this thing looks like an absolute menace. Very, very cool. Definitely like the looks of it. It's got like sort of like a tentacly kind of horror thing going on mixed in with the Tyranids. Very, very neat. Definitely cannot wait to get a hold of one of these things and actually paint it up too. This looks like a beautiful model, just loaded with detail. The massive Psychophage is an organic furnace that gobbles up enemies and turns their essence into a raging psychoclastic torrent. Their favorite food is psychers, and the mass of whipping tentacles around their gaping maw can strip the mind from the warp inclined before they can lift their magic book staff orb in defense. This creature's massive bulk and terrifying fanged maw harks back to the Horuspecs, but the Psychophage has a much more selective diet in mind. Up against this ravenous swarm are veteran Space Marines packing heavy armor and plenty of flamers, so check out your closer look at the units to decide which you'll be consuming first. There's plenty more inside the Leviathan box, so head back to the Warhammer Fest hub to see all the reveals from today's event. So very, very cool. Absolutely loving these models. Almost 50 brand new Tyranids in this set. I don't know what could possibly be more exciting for your other bug players out there. I am personally loving all the new bugs. It sounds like they have super cool roles in mind for actual gameplay, lore, and then the models are stellar. I got to give it to Games Workshop on this one. Not only did they hit a home run, this is an absolute grand slam of a box. All of the units are super cool and super unique and really just add some extra flavor to the Tyranid swarm like we've never seen before. And I really just cannot wait to get these bad boys on the tabletop. So always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. Let me know which of these new creatures is your favorite, which one is the scariest, and which ones are going to be doing the most devastating damage to your opponents. And if you haven't taken the plunge yet, I can't imagine a better time to start your own new Tyranid horde. Well, that's it for today. Special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. Check out the link in the description to save 15%. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I cannot wait to consume this biomass. And I'm out of here.